werewolves, vampires, ghosties with the mosties. It's Halloween, or as we like to call it, Hell Hallows Eve. Up next for the ghoulies and ghosties and hosties with the mosties, we've got all your favorites that go bump in the night.
Hello, welcome to my spooky Halloween or very close to Halloween special. I have here 6 tales of varying horror and length for you all to enjoy. Starting off with a local legend that you could actually find on the web. Just go to Prairie Land Ghosts or something like that. But either way, one of the local colleges in my town has a, I guess you'd call it a lore myth, that they're in one of the halls. I can't remember which one specifically, and if I did, I probably wouldn't mention the name anyway. At night, you can hear the piano being played, and some say they could see a ghost, well, what they presume to be a ghost, but it's a person's visage with a pig's head sitting down at the piano. It is unsettling. I don't know how true it might be. I think there might be some truth to the story. Maybe someone died in one of the halls and haunts it to this day. The pig's head may be an exaggeration, or maybe one of the halls used to be a butcher's shop. Very doubtful. But that concludes the first myth / story. It's not very long, but very unsettling just to hear the dun 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 dun, spooky. Anyway, on to the next story. This story is about when me and a couple friends, it was actually a friend and his brother. I don't remember the nickname I gave them, so I'll just call them friend and friend brother. Well, we would walk up and down the train tracks, not very often. We only did it twice, but there's a local set of train tracks that are like very spooky at the nighttime, and they're surrounded by like forest area, and we all had weaponry with us, something to fend off things in case we got attacked, which of walking up and down these tracks you think you see things, but you hear things all the time in the woods, scurrying and moving about, and unsettling because you're in the open and they're hidden in the shadows, if you will. And one of the 2 times we walked up and down this, we just walk up and down them. We'd walk down them for a long time, really. It'd be like hours and hours, and we come across this thing in the middle of the train tracks, and we kind of sit and we look. We thought it was moving at first, and we go over to it slowly but methodically, weapons out, and we get over to it. It's a turtle's shell that has been flipped over like way prior to us being there, and it had been moving because there were like bugs and things inside of like where the actual turtle would be in the shell, because it was dead, and I'm assuming it got hit by a train, or maybe happened to just be attacked by an animal on the train track area, but yeah, it was pretty much just sitting there kind of rotting and getting eaten. And so we left that one and let it be. But all this time as we're walking down, it's like low darkness, pitch black. We've got like just a little light. I think we have like a tiny flashlight at this point with us, but it's not very much. We might have a couple flashlights, probably 2 of them, you know, but not very much light. And I remember that there was barely a moon even, and you just hear the noise and just the ambience to it. It's very spooky. Very, it's actually something that's really fun to do, kind of, but we also would walk through the wooded areas by the tracks and stuff and go in there, and it'd just be, you'd just hear like a lot of like, you know, like shuffling sounds and stuff, you know, and it'd be very, very spooky. But that's pretty much that story. We just walk up and down the train tracks, freak ourselves out. And now we move on to the next story. Now we're getting into the stories that are actually, like, I mean, that one was, you know, we're just, as I'm going, the spookiness is going to ratchet up, I should say. And this is a true story. This is coming from my dad's perspective. He used to truck drive. And he would end up all different places in America. Well, this one day, he had to drop a load off in Detroit. And he, you know, drives up there and he gets to the place and he, you know, docks his vehicle. And there's really no workers there or anything, so he decides just to kind of just get some shut-eye and wait until he, you know, sometimes they're not around, and plus they know truckers sleep all the time in their cabs anyway, so the cab is the inside of a truck, or the whole truck itself. I don't know, it's a trucker's term, but the point is, he would sleep in the back, and he woke up to the sound of like this like shuffling feet and just like metal and like this noise in general. So he gets up and he looks through this little curtain and he sees in the rear view mirror and he sees like just a big group of people, like, you know, talking like a gang size of people. And in fact, come to find out, this is indeed a gang. A Detroit gang, and there's not all of them, but a part of them, probably 25 individuals, and they're rummaging through all the dockyard stuff, and they're like got bolt cutters, and they're methodical and dangerous, and they will, if you're in your cab, they will throw you out of your truck, and they will, you know, the murder is not beyond the thing, and plus, you know, as a truck driver, you need your truck, and so he has like, I don't remember, he said he had some kind of weapon in the truck. I don't think it was, not a gun, it was like some kind of like melee style weapon, and he rolls his window down, and well, actually what happens is he gets his weapon, and before he even rolls his window down, I don't even think he rolls his window down. I don't know why I said that. He doesn't roll his window down, but he does go to the window. And one of the guys, you know, because the guy is knocking on the window. He's tapping on the window. That's why he goes over there. I remember now. I'm fucking stupid. He went over to the window. The guy's tapping on it. And as soon as he that's why, because as soon as he goes to roll the window down, one of the guards or workers from the dock itself comes around the corner. And he comes with a couple other guys, I think, to help do something with my dad's truck. And most of the gang scatter except the guy at the window. And he just kind of walks away slowly. And he flashes like what I guess would be a gang sign, what my dad would presume to be a gang sign. And he scurries away before the people get too close. But that was only because they had opened 2 previous truck doors. And the truckers weren't in the trucks, but one of them was locked. And they somehow had fucking got into. I don't remember. I don't think they broke the window, but they got in somehow. They might have kicked the door to the locking mechanism or something. But dangerous and scary, and not the kind of scary you would assume in maybe a spooky set of tales such as this. But nonetheless, here it is. And now we shall move on to the next story. This one comes at a time period pretty similar to the spooky train tracks one, because I was into urbex, or urban exploration, if you will, looking in old houses and kind of just trying to get like spooky footage or spooky like not EMPs, but electronic voice phenomena, EVP. And we went to this one house that's way out in the middle of nowhere. Way out in the middle of nowhere. And it's been abandoned for not too long, really. But long enough, like probably, I don't know. I don't remember. I want to say probably a year, maybe longer. Probably slightly longer, probably 2, 3. Because when we got inside this place, it was pretty, it wasn't like, it definitely looked like a place that was abandoned. There was just papers and shit everywhere. And as soon as we all get in, I remember it's me, this other guy, and there's 2 girls, and it's just us 4. And I'm the second to last, and then the other guy comes in, and we get in a pretty, we get into the kitchen. The door opens into the kitchen, and we get in, all of us get in all the way, and you just hear a smack, like a slam, like a loud slam, and we turn around, and the screen door just fucking, like, it just went from being open to just ching, like slammed shut within no time flat. And me and the other guy go over there, because prior to this, he tried to play a prank on us to try to scare us, so I thought it might have been him goofing off, and he was too far away from the door to do anything. But I did go over to the door and see if it was like heavy, and if it shut on itself, like if it was open, if it was just heavy enough it would just shut. But no, the door wasn't like that at all, and the wind was nil, no wind whatsoever. The door should have just stayed right open. It wasn't like free swinging, but it wasn't loose nor tight. Like, it would require wind or somebody moving it from basically a complete 180 degree to actually shut it. And it was spooky. And not only that, but we're looking throughout the house, and there's all kinds of like weird books, and there's a couple books with weird, very weird, I would say demonic imagery, like not like, like not a pentagram, but kind of similar to it, like circles, like almost like spell binding circles, like circles within circles with like weird like shapes in them. But the other thing is, we found a picture, like a little picture of a kid, a boy, on the floor in one of the rooms, I presumed a bedroom, I guess, or what used to be a bedroom, and it looked like, I shit you not, the boy from It, the original, the Tim Curry It, because the boy gets killed in the pretty early runnings of the movie, or the miniseries, if you will, and it looks just like him. And it's very off-putting. It was off-putting then, but just thinking about it, it was off-putting. The whole experience is pretty weird. We went upstairs, but we didn't stay long because it just kind of felt a general negative vibe from the place. Like, it seemed like people left in a hurry because there was a lot of belongings still there that weren't like necessarily expensive or anything, but it's like, why would, I don't know, coffee machines, like a half decent microwave, I mean, not that we were going to take it or anything, but it's just odd things that people to leave. A lot of disheveled paperwork, like I said, everywhere. It was just unsettling. But now we go on to the main course, and why the title of the whole thing is Scary Graveyard Tales. So, me and a friend We'll call him, he's not been in a story time before, but we will give him a name. We'll give him the name, we'll call him Scary. We'll call him Scary, why not? Just because we did scary things together, as well as just kind of chilled out. Well, this day, I had some weed and a bowl and some joint papers and a blunt wrap. I remember it vividly, all on me. And we were at a local area, the same area, in fact, like pretty close, not the same exact area, but within around the same exact body of water and around the same area that I did my my first shroom trip at. The place that's a stupid place to go do anything like that. Well, it was still a stupid place to go do these kind of things. And I was just sitting there, and we parked in one of the areas that just kind of have a little gravel area, and we parked. And I'm just smoking my bowls, and the guy I was with, he at the time, is still, I'm pretty sure to this day, didn't smoke, so he just let me smoke, and we were just chatting, thinking about something to do. Trying to get something spooky going on, or maybe something, because we were both kind of into the idea of urbex and being spooky. And this isn't really urbex, but you know, urbex can be spooky, so it kind of just led one thing to another. And there's a graveyard out of town, and it's pretty small, and it's it's small, and it's kind of tucked away, and it's also near some woods, near some wooded area. And we decided that we're going to go there, but not before I spot. Now, where we're at is a round area, and you can see the opposite end of the area. You can see the opposite end of the area from where you are, where you're sitting in your car, and I see a spotlight. I see a spotlight across the way. I don't see like a vehicle or anything. I just see a spotlight. First thing I see. And then all sirens are a go. All sirens are a go. Not literally, but I see two vehicles. One with the spotlight on, one not. And I see them spotlighting the area. And then I see them start to drive away from that area. And I know in my head at the time, and still to this day, that if you see that, because there's another story time I'm going to have in the future, very similar, but it happens in another town, and we'll get to that in the future. But I know when they're going around, they're going to end up exactly around where we're at, because it just loops around. Eventually, they're going to end up where we're at, and I know they're cops because of the way the spotlights were and everything. They were cops, and I had weed and a bowl. So I take this bowl, and it's like a clay bowl. It's not very much. I'm talking like probably $10, if not less, probably 8, 7, I don't know. But I took it, and I just chuck it in the body of water like a dumbass, because I could have just buried it or saved it, because I ended up taking the weed I had and hiding it, burying it under some like shallow gravel or some rock or some dirt. I can't remember exactly. It might be a mixture of both, some silty loam, if you will. But we ended up doing that, or I ended up doing that. He's just kind of chilling, looking out for him, and lo and behold, about 2-3 minutes later, here they are. Lights on. They turn the lights on when they pull up. No siren. Spotlights out, facing towards us, and they're like, "What are you boys doing?" Well, we're just hanging out, sir. Just kind of, nothing in particular, just talking, hanging out, And they're like, "Well, it's kind of late, awfully late, boys." And we're like, "Yeah, well, I mean, it's a weekend, and I don't know if I had curfew or then or not, but it wasn't, I don't think it was curfew. It wasn't, because they let us go. Because they tried to say, "Oh, we could smell weed," and I'm like, "Well, you could search us, and you search his car." And lo and behold, they searched the fuck out of me and his car. But they don't search, like, the surrounding area, but I don't think they really had the time nor the patience, and why would they? So they get in their car, and they say, "You boys have yourself a good day." And we said, you two officers, and we're sorry for causing maybe a possible disruption or whatever." And he's like, "Oh, no problem," and drives away. So I go grab my weed. I think having the papers and the blunt wrap gave it away, but then again, I had nothing on me, and I smoked cigarettes at the time, I think. No, I didn't. I did before this time period, slightly. I smoked very, very small stint, but that's a good excuse. But we end up getting in the car, and I end up rolling a joint, a pretty decent one, a pretty big dude. And we get to the out and driving out to the. Before we even get to the graveyard, it's just really dark. Once again, darkness seems to be the tail of the tape for the story because it's just dark, spooky, terrifying, realistically, because it's very quiet at this point. Quiet as can be. Dead silent, if you will. And we get out of the car once we get there, shut our doors, and we decide to run with no flashlights unless we really have to. So I have my camera out on my phone, so I'm using my phone's flashlight, but it's not nearly powerful, just to kind of add to the scariness to it. And we get around and finally get up to where there's start to get the gravestones start to show up, and all of a sudden we hear, like, well, not really all of a sudden, it kind of just creeps up and it kind of just starts to just linger, this rustling sound. Like, I'm talking like all around us, like whoosh, 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 whoosh. And it's like, something moving quickly through the forest around us, the surrounding area. And we kind of, I don't think we had any weapons at this time, but we hear off in the distance little, pretty much, but yeah, we don't have any weapons with us at the time, so we hear the scurrying, and we hear it, and off in the distance you hear a howl. Maybe not quite that cliche of a howl, but definitely a howl. And not only is it a howl, but it's a howl followed by a like a deep growl sound. Like, not like a, it's a growl of a ravenous growl. And it's pretty easy to tell that we are in the middle, at this point, of a graveyard, surrounded by a pack of wild dogs, coyotes, wolves. It could be hyenas or dingoes at this point. Obviously, probably not those two things, but the point stands that we are surrounded by the enemy with no weapons in a scary, dark graveyard. So we do what any real men would do at this time to show our manliness, and we take off running as fast as we can, and we're running, and we're running, and we're running, and all of a sudden you hear the rustling get closer and closer, and it's behind us, and it's still behind us, but it's lingering, and it's closer, and it's closer, and then we get into his car, and the most cliche thing happens before we do is he drops his keys. Of course, the most cliche thing ever, but he gets his keys in. We hop in the car, we're shaking a little bit, we're terrified. We hear it. We hear another howl, another howl off in the distance. We don't hear the gurrs this time because we have enough distance in the car muffling the sound, but he just, of course, it doesn't start the first key turn. It's a second. At least it started the second. What if it didn't start at all? We'd be like Cujo at that point, surrounded. But we didn't actually get a good visual on anything because they were using the forest to, like, smart motherfuckers as a guard, like as a camouflage, if you will, like those grass wolf things from that Shyamalan movie. But that was terrifying. We almost got eaten by ravenous wolves or dogs or something with no weapons on us whatsoever, and there had to at least be fucking 7, 8 of them at least. But it was crazy. And I did have the EVP. I recorded a bunch of EVP. I didn't get like any. I just recorded a bunch of like stale, stagnant air sound basically. But we did get the howling of the wolves, or whatever the fuck they were. But I also later that night I slept and I left the EVP recorder out on my bed because I listened to the recording of that one when I got home. I left it out that night, and I wish I would have saved it. But the next morning I woke up, there was just a slight, just like you could barely notice it, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna put it in my. I had a computer way worse at the time, but it was a USB-able recorder thing, voice recorder, and I plugged it in, and I, kind of just spliced out everything and kept that part, and I kind of spread it out and kind of played with it a little bit, and I was able to get a little bit of sound from it, just a little bit of sound from it. And can you believe what the sound was? The sound sounded like a dog or a wolf panting. I'm only telling a half-truth there. It sounded like panting somewhat, but it wasn't specifically an animal's per se, but very unsettling to have like a, some kind of variation that I can't remember specifically, but I do remember it was unsettling. Then again, I thought back to it, and it could have been me breathing at night or something. Maybe I was having like a nightmare. It's really hard telling, but creepy nonetheless. And it could have been the dog. My grandma had a dog at the time, but yeah, one more bonus tale that I forgot to mention. So in a local's town, another local town, it's actually a local city, I'd say, there is a convention center, and my relative actually died at this convention center due to let's just say, unfortunate accident. He was sitting in the crowd amongst hundreds of thousands of people. Not hundreds of thousands, but, thousands and hundreds of people. And he's at the tractor pull, and he's having a good time. And all of a sudden, the tractor gets up there, and it has a big old engine malfunction or backfire, and it fucking the engine basically explodes, and a part of the engine comes launching out, and it right into his head goes a chunk of the tractor engine. It kills him on impact. So one of these days, I'm going to try to get into this convention center under, the pretenses that this is a relative of mine, and see if maybe I can get some EVPs or some kind of spooky, haunting style things that happen after the fact. But let's see if that happens. I'll definitely be sure to share it with you guys here on the channel. But as it all goes, you guys have yourselves a great Halloween and enjoy the candy, but look for razor blades first.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again. We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again.